Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sattology Debunking Mythology. Sattology means science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science of fake lie imagination or study of fake lie imagination. The ancient history connotationally is called mythology by the Western academics, which they should not be calling. But the proof in the native cultures was never collaborated or never discussed in Western academic systems. And we all know that the history was written from the perspective of Europeans. And it has never been discussed from the point of view of people who were colonized or people who were the natives of the land. And that's how the new terms are coming in. Nationalism is good, is bad, and patriotism is good. So I don't think so. Only that the real history was being taught, only narratives were being taught. So I have a very, very special guest today joining from India, and we are going to discuss something on Vijay Parva, the Indians who successfully fought against Europeans. So let us welcome Sri Prashant Pole from India.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, namaskar. So Prashant Pole, what a wonderful topic of it is, Vijay Parva. So very little is known about the Indians who fought against the Europeans. Marthanda Varma is one thing we spoke last time,
Yes, yes,
but very little known about others who fought against the French, against the Portuguese, against
Dutch.
against the Dutch, and against the British. British we all know also very well, but
Yes.
still we need to know about something more. So what happened? We'll start with the French. Who fought against the French, and then we'll move to others.
Okay, as we all are aware that French came in India, and their main rivalry was with the Britishers, and they wanted to have their a kind of a very large colony, and they were considering India in a totally different manner. They fought with Britishers, and somehow they could get only some portion of it. That is the southern portion that we call it Pondicherry, Chandan Nagar, and some part of it. And when the Britishers have established their control almost most of part of the country, then they didn't really disturb the Chandan Nagar or this Pondicherry and those areas. So when Britishers went in 1947, rather they didn't go, they were compelled to go in 1947. That time, I mean, that French part was still under the control of France, and after that they have left from Pondicherry and the Chandan Nagar and the places like that. So as regards to French is concerned, French invasion, is not much as compared to Portuguese, Dutch, and Britishers in that sense, if we say.
So against the Dutch, we already know that the Dutch were bribing Jahangir. It is very, very well written by everybody else that they were bribing Jahangir with a few pair of clothes and also with women from Europe.
Yes.
And that's how they controlled the trade through the Dutch East India Company from Kolkata. Today is
Yes.
Kolkata, but yesterday it was Dhaka and Calcutta, both of them.
Yes, you are right. Correct.
So what are the other leaders who fought against the Dutch other than Marthanda Varma was the first one to defeat them?
I'm sorry, but Marthanda Varma was not the first one to defeat the colonial forces, the European colonial forces. We all know that the Europeans started coming to India from 1498 when this Vasco da Gama came to India with the help of this Indian sailors and all. So when he came to India, he went to the southern tip of India. That way, today that province is called Kerala. There he went. Immediately, then he went back to his country, Portugal, He told his king that, okay, I have found ultimately the India, and India is so wealthy and all those things. Because that Indian king, he has the Samudrin king, he was ready to do the business with him. And there are the Muslim Arabic traders who didn't want to have that trade with this European people. So there was little fight. So next time, when the Portuguese sent their people, they were in a very large number. 1,200 people came. They were thinking initially that India is like a country similar to United States or similar to the Latin America, South America, wherein the Spanish went and they literally conquered the local people. In their language, they called it natives. So the really conquered natives, almost destroyed natives, had their control immediately without much of the problem. But India was different, absolutely different. So when this 1,200 people came with the 30 ships, large and medium-sized ships, large means not those large, because Indian shipbuilding industry was even much was producing even much bigger and larger ships. But they came with the 30 ships and 1,200 people, and they wanted to attack. They wanted to conquer that southern portion of India, but they couldn't do it. And afterwards, they were trying to come to India, trying to do the business with India, trying to conquer India. They were not interested only in doing the business. So that when it started from 1498 to 1964, when ultimately Portuguese left this from Goa, this was more than, we can call it as a more than 460 years of the total period, wherein the European colonial forces had tried to conquer the Indian people. Now, when the Portuguese couldn't get their sort of control over the local kings in southern part, they went to Goa. That time Goa was under this Nizam Shahi, that Muslim empire from this Adil Shahi, and that Vizapur was their capital, and Goa was not really well guarded and all, so they could conquer Goa. So Goa they made as their major establishment, and from Goa they wanted to conquer the entire sort of southwest coastal belt of India. That includes today's Mumbai, which they had that earlier, Bombay we call it, earlier we used to call it, and then the Mangalore, and then that that coastal portion goes up to the Kerala, Kochi and all. So somehow they wanted to have this Mangalore, because Mangalore that time was very famous, and they could get some control over Mangalore also. They had their establishment in Mangalore. Problem was, and this was, they were relatively very fast. They came to 1498 first time in India. The next expedition was immediately after 2 years, then 2-3 years, and then it was a very regular business, kind of regular. Their ships used to come and they used to, something like that. Now, in 1525, they tried to attack a small, I call it a kingdom, we call it empire, very small relatively. It's called Ullal. Ullal is close to this Mangalore. And the Ullar was ruled that time by queen, and queen name was Queen Abbakka. Abbakka. She was basically married to a kind of prince from Mangalore, but somehow she didn't have a good kind of understanding with her husband. So she was looking after the kingdom of Ullal, because in that in their society, it was, they used to call it as a Matru Sattaka system. This means that the parental side, it was from the mother side. So the mother side, even that girl or lady could rule the kingdom. That was basically the custom. So she started ruling Ullal kingdom, small kingdom, She was doing very well, and that's what people used to feel, that yes, she was doing extremely well. She was ruling nicely and all. In 1525, Portuguese first time attacked this Ullal, because Ullal was a kind of though it was small kingdom, it was coming in between. They couldn't able to conquer the entire coastal belt. Because of that, they attacked, they were defeated. Then somehow, because she was very strong, she fortified properly and all. So next around 30 years, Portuguese couldn't do much on that. In 1555, they attacked with a larger force. That time, Admiral Dom Alvaro de Silveira, he came with a lot of force. Somehow, this Queen Abbakka defeated him also, and the entire Portuguese army. They continued with 1557, again got defeated. Did 1558, again got defeated. 1565, again got defeated. 1568, they thought that no, this is a hurdle. Because of this, we are not in a position to control the entire this southwest coastal belt. So somehow we have to defeat this queen. So their general Juo Pexota, he came with lot of army, and he attacked this Ullal. So from Mangalore, he came to Ullal, and what this queen did, she did a sort of a guerrilla warfare kind of thing. She had ensured that in that Ullal was basically a second largest town in this Tulu kingdom. They used to call it Tulu kingdom. That part of the Karnataka, that coastal part is called Tulu. Tulu land also they call it. The capital of this Ullal was Moodbidri. Moodbidri was number one town in this small kingdom. Moodbidri is basically known for the 1,000-pillar temple and all. Ullal is second largest. This queen is basically following the Jain philosophy. She was Jain, but she used to write a prefix as Mahadevi Abbakka. So what she did, when these forces, this Portuguese forces came to the town, she ensured that no one has to be there in the town. It was totally emptied kind of town. No one was there. So they got confused. They thought that these people got really scared and they left the entire town. Meanwhile, this Abbakka was hiding in a mosque. She didn't hide in a temple because she was aware that they will certainly go to temple. They'll first check the temple. She hid herself in a mosque with only 200 soldiers. And with a surprise attack, those 200 soldiers got attacked immediately on this General Juo Pexota, who was on that a small palace was there. So who conquered the palace? Sort of that he thought that, okay, I have got the control over the palace. So he was in the palace. All the 200 soldiers, they are very brave. They immediately attacked, and because they knew each and every nook and corner of this palace, they attacked. And this queen, though she was Jain, she said very clearly that kill them. Otherwise, they will again and again and again will attack us. So kill them. And their army literally killed General Juo Pexota. And they were very happy, yes, because the Pexota was killed, major army was defeated, this Portuguese army was defeated. Portuguese army started running to Mangalore. And herein, she did a great job, which I think after 92 years, Chhatrapati Shivaji, the King Shivaji, had followed almost a similar manner, the surprise attack element. When King Shivaji, Chhatrapati Shivaji, had killed Afzal Khan, he didn't stop there. He used that surprise attack element, and with the army, he tried to attack the entire Vijapur dynasty, entire Vijapur kingdom. And like this Trishul, his three commanders went to three different direction. He himself went to this Pratapgarh direction, and in 18 days, only 18 days, in the 10th November 1659, he killed Afzal Khan, and 28th November 1659, he conquered the Vijapur, much part of the Vijapur kingdom, and he has increased his own small kingdom empire by 2.5 times. That's how Shivaji did that. But prior to that, 92 years earlier to that, in the year 1568, this this Queen Abbakka, she used that surprise element, in her attack, and she went straight away to Mangalore. Now you can understand, Mangalore was their, was their place. Mangalore was their camp. The soldiers were there, their commanders were there, and their admiral was also there. But with a surprise attack element, she could conquer the Mangalore. She got the control over the Mangalore fort, and she killed the admiral Mascarenhas Nas. The Mascarenhas Nas was the admiral of that force. So the entire Portuguese force started running to the other part. She went after them 100 kilometers. She went to Basarur. That time this Basarur was called Kundapur. She went to Basarur, and even she, got control of the Basarur. So the day when this Portuguese attacked, they had Mangalore, they had Basarur, they had major portion of this coastal area. But not even within less than 24 hours, they lost the control over the Mangalore. They lost the control of Mangalore fort, Basur, Ullal, this Moodbitri, everything. And that is how she had shown that a lady, a brave woman, a lady, could somehow fight with a very powerful force of Portuguese. And Portuguese force is not very, we can call it very sophisticated in nature. They were very cruel. They didn't fight with all the ethics and all. But still, force such that this Portuguese force, this Queen Abbakka had decisively defeated them. Of course, this victory could continue only for 2 years. Then this Portuguese somehow, tied up with her husband, with whom she didn't have the good relationship, and somehow captured her, and then she got killed. But the impact of this Queen Abbakka was such that this Portuguese have really scared of the entire region, and they didn't dare again to attack this area. And though after this queen was killed, Portuguese couldn't get control over the Mangalore and other portion of this coastal area, and they could confine themselves with the Bombay, Goa, etc. only. And then the northern side coastal area, that northern side means that northwest kind of thing, wherein this Goa, Daman, Diu and all, that was only the area confined to them. So even so she was, I could say that she was the first one who had decisively defeated the very powerful force that time, force like Portuguese. That time British even didn't come to India. They didn't come to India. But Portuguese were very strong, and she had defeated Portuguese. I think that was a great kind of thing, which unfortunately is not coming in the history. I don't know why, but it was not taught to the students. The unfortunate part of it, but that bravery, that brave woman's character has to come forward. People should understand about her. That's what I feel.
You covered the Western India. What about the Central and the Northwest? Like, which are the...
Okay, I'm coming to that.
Okay.
We after that we discussed about a little bit about King Marthanda Varma.
Yes.
But Marthanda Varma's why Marthanda was so important? That's what I feel. Marthanda Varma's tenor was from 18th century. I mean, his birth year is 1706,
Hmm.
and he died in 1758. So he could get only 52 years of life. 7th July 1758, he died. So 18th century was just basically the period. Now, why Marthanda Varma was important? That's what I feel. That time, even the Britishers were there, but but let's understand. For Britishers, it was logically easy to start their business and their kind of control over the west coast of India, because logically, from Britain, when they are sailing to India, that is how, I mean, that's how they could first come to the India. That's the west coast. And then after, having moving around after Sri Lanka and all, Ceylon, those days they used to call it, then they were going to Bengal, Calcutta and all. In fact, when Britishers came to India first time in 1608, they landed in the place called Surat. Surat is a port of place called Gujarat, which is a western state. So that time, even because Britishers found that this area was controlled, or they have the competition from Dutch and Portuguese. So Portuguese were, that's what we have seen. This Dutch also had established their Dutch East India Company. It was in 1602. This British East India Company was established in 1600. Rather, it was 31st December 1600. So we can call it a 1601. It was established, and they started their company in 1602. The company's name is VOC. In Dutch language, it's used called Verenigd Oost-Indische Compagnie. Verenigd Oost-Indische Compagnie. That is VOC. That was basically the name of their company. So when they started doing the business, the major business by which India was also very wealthy, and which used to give the lot of money, and that was the kind of spices and so many other things which were which was traded from the southern part of the country. Today we call it Kerala, and that portion. So there was a lot of competition was there. Dutch couldn't find much of their share in this business, so they went even further, and they found that this Indonesia, today we call it Indonesia, that Indonesia, Java, that Indonesia was a better kind of country wherein they could do the business. So they established their almost sort of headquarter in a place called Batavia. Earlier it used to call it Batavia. Today we call it Jakarta. Jakarta is the capital of Indonesia. So that was the headquarter of this Dutch East India Company. Now, they also established their major center in Sri Lanka. So they were in Indonesia, they were in Sri Lanka, they were trying to do the Southeast Asia entire. They're trying to do the control over that. But their major aim was to do the business through India. They wanted to have the control over the India, because name itself was Dutch East India Company, naturally. So their major kind of one of the main hurdle for them was this King Marthanda Varma. He was not allowing them. He was doing business on his own. So the Sri Lankan, their commander who was stationed in Sri Lanka, he tried to attack him once or twice, couldn't do it. But then this Dutch people, they thought that no, let's have a big kind of attack on this Marthanda Varma, who was a king of kingdom of Travancore. It, 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 it was called Travancore kingdom. So let's attack him. And in 1741, they attacked a place called Kolachel. Kolachel is a in south in the south tip is a small port, small town in the southern tip of India, very close to Kanyakumari. Kanyakumari is well known because of Swami Vivekananda and all, so that very close to that Kanyakumari. So that in Kolachel, that a very huge force, they they wanted to conquer this portion first, and then from therein they wanted to go ahead with this capital of this Travancore. So a large Dutch force from Sri Lanka, from some part is Indonesia and all, they came to this Kolachel. In this Kolachel, almost 7 days battle was there, almost. And it was a very kind of difficult sort of battle for both the parties. And they were having some new ammunitions and other type of instruments and all. However, this Raja Marthanda Varma was a very brave man. He somehow motivated all his soldiers. And that was a major, very horrible kind of battle in Kolachel. And in this Kolachel battle, he, again, I use the word, decisively defeated the Dutch forces. And very strongly, he fought the battle. And their situation was so pathetic, so horrible, so dire, that they couldn't really sustain. They have to really run away from the battlefield. And they went back. In 17th April 1742, there was a letter from Dutch commander. And in this letter, this Dutch commander, Van Golenis, he writes to his headquarters in Batavia, which is now we call it Jakarta. And he writes, and that letter is available in even the public domain, I think it is available. He writes the situation, the very dire, very pathetic situation of the Dutch forces. And he says that this Kolachel war, the Kolachel battle, is horrible for us. And now we shouldn't even think about attacking the Indian king and Indian area. This was why it is so important, why Marthanda Varma is so important, why this Kolachel battle is so important, because this is the first time any Eastern king or Eastern force had decisively defeated the Western force. Otherwise, the Western used to come and, the decisive defeat was not there, but he had established a very decisive defeat of this Dutch forces. So the Dutch forces after that even didn't come to that portion or in India rather. So in India, they couldn't make their a colony. They did a lot of business earlier. They used to do that, but they couldn't make any colony. They even didn't think to make India as their colony. And that is very important, because after that, the next decisive defeat by the Eastern forces on the Western forces was in 1905, when Japan had defeated the Russian forces. So this was the first one. Raja Marthanda Varma's this victory was the first one, a very decisive kind of victory over the Western forces. So these two forces have limited, because of, I think, these two, king and queen, Queen Abbakka and this king Raja Marthanda Varma, that is King Marthanda Varma. That's what I feel.
Prashantji, then coming to now we covered the south, we need to go central and northwest.
Well, south, I'm coming to that, but south we didn't even complete that, because these two forces we have seen. But when it comes to British forces, because many times what happens, these characters or these kind of figures, the great warriors, they don't reflect in the history, and that is really painful. So we must be aware about it. Like this Queen Velu Nachiyar. Now, Queen Velu Nachiyar from Tamil Nadu, very few people are aware about it, but she did a really great uh, kind of job. She defeated, again, I always use the word, decisively defeated the British forces. And the characters which or the warriors which I am telling you, those have defeated them. Maybe that victory is for some time, maybe for few years, but they have defeated the Western forces. This Velu Nachiyar, her tenure is from 1730 to 1796, almost in the same time. But Britishers were relatively successful in this Bengal. But before, this when this Britishers were doing some, winning this Battle of Plassey and all, therein they were trying to have inroads into the southern portion, southern part, and there are a lot of small kingdoms in southern India which were supposed to, which were very strong. So this Velu Nachiyar, the Queen Velu Nachiyar, she is the queen from Shiva Gangai. They call it Shiv Ganga kingdom. Basically, she got married to Prince of Shiv Ganga. In Tamil Nadu, this Velu Nachiyar was known as Veeramangai. Veeramangai in Tamil is the brave woman. The woman who fought bravely is brave woman. That is Veeramangai, and this Queen Velu Nachiyar was a Veeramangai. She was basically a princess of Ramanathapuram, very small, we can call it as a very small kingdom from Tamil Nadu, a southern state of India. She got married with Prince of Shiva Ganga, who became the king of Shiv Ganga. So she was the queen of Shiv Ganga. But Britishers wanted to have that kingdom, and Britishers have attacked to the Shiv Ganga in 1772. Somehow that battle was very kind of horrible. Therein, she lost her husband. Her forces got defeated, and she had to run away. She was escaped. Though her husband was killed, she could escape, and she was staying somewhere else and trying to prepare herself. So she stayed in a place called Dandigul and other places in Tamil Nadu, and was trying to create the forces, generate the forces, make the forces, trying to organize the people. And then after 8 years, after her husband was killed and she lost the battle of Shivganga, after 8 years, she, again attacked the Britishers who had control over the Shivganga. And that was known as the Shivganga Battle of 1780. In 1780, the battle was again a very great battle. And therein again, this queen goes into history because she used, first time in the world history, any suicide bomber. And with the suicide bomber, she could have a great victory. What she did? She knew that because Britishers had a lot of ammunition. So with so much ammunition, it is very difficult to win them. She didn't have that much. So what she did, she organized a kind of guerrilla warfare sort of thing. And therein, her commander-in-chief was a lady. Her name is Quili. Quili was the name of that lady. Quili volunteered herself. She said, look, I have an idea. And with that, we can defeat these British forces. Initially, the queen was not ready for this idea. But she was very, persistent on that. She said, no, we should have that. And then only the Britishers will get defeated. Otherwise, the Shiv Ganga, they will, it will be under control of Britishers always. And even the common people of Shiv Ganga, didn't like Britishers. As we all are aware, the Britishers were not really doing a very proper, system and all. They were very cruel. The way they used to get their revenue and the it was not a very good kind of rule which they used to run there. So everybody wanted to, take out this. To defeat these Britishers. So she was volunteered. This commander in chief Quilly, she put a lot of ghee on her body, and she ignited herself, and she run on the place, the storage wherein this ammunition was kept. She was aware about it, that where the ammunition was kept, because she was, burning herself totally with flames and all. Nobody could dare to stop her. So she straight away went to the ammunition storage, and that ammunition got burst. It was horrible. A lot of British soldiers got died into this explosion, and with that, this Queen Velu Nachiyar have defeated the Britishers. Now, Britishers had this shock after so many years that this queen could continue to rule the Shiv Ganga till 1796. She died in 1796, because after that her adopted daughter also was ruling this Shiv Ganga. So this way she had fought the Britishers. She got recorded in the history as the first queen who had used the suicide bomber to win the battle, and she won the battle. She started ruling again in the Shivganga kingdom, and after around 16 years after that, she got died, and that Britishers couldn't even think to conquer again this Shivganga. That was the kind of shock these Britishers had in their mind. So this is, though she was from South, but that's what I wanted to tell you, that yes, this is how the Britishers were really got shocked, and she fought with the Britishers. She was really, we call it the Veera Mangai, that is the brave woman of Tamil Nadu. Unfortunately, again, her name is also not reflected properly in the history. That should go into the history rather.
The general theory is that the southern people did not have many aggressors,
Yes.
and which is, you have totally debunked that the South Indian,
Yes.
just from the directional level, we say north and south, but in South India also there was significant fight against the colonial forces, and partly they were more successful than the North Indians. And so that is also debunked completely with your analysis. I did not know that. I could hear this talk for hours actually now. And so if you, again, I'm saying, if you completed the south, we moved north. It's still not over yet.
Rather, I request you to go to today. I didn't want to really touch that north, because not everybody is by and large aware about it. And you rightly said, and I fully agree with you, that it is a perception that North really fought against this all colonial invaders, rather European invaders, and southern part was almost carried away with them. But this is absolutely wrong.
Absolutely.
So I agree with your point that this is the perception, and the perception is wrong. So before going to the north, I suggest let us go to the east part of it, little east.
All right.
And that is the tribal. The way tribals have fought, it was great. When this Britishers got Bengal under their control. So in Bengal, today we call it a Bihar, Jharkhand, and other states. These states are, those days were part and parcel of the Bengal province. Bengal province is very large. Today's Bangladesh, today's West Bengal of India, today's Bihar of India, today's Jharkhand of India, today's part of Odisha, all were the, constitute the then Bengal province. So in Bengal province, After the Plassey's battle, that is 1757, they won the Plassey battle, and Britishers started sort of ruling this Bengal province. And after this 57, there was a war of Buxar in 1765. And again, Britishers won that war. And from there onwards, they started even collecting the revenue and all. The extorting revenue, they're collecting the revenue and all. So during this period, during this 1769, there was a famine. And that famine was worse. Horrible famine. Horrible famine. I think this was the famine wherein, so far as a record, the largest number of people were died in that one famine, and that was that Bengal famine of 1759, 69, 70 and all. During that period, Britishers didn't shown any humanity towards their people, because now they were ruling, and all the people in that Bengal province were their people. They were ruling on them, but they were not really concerned about the people. They were not concerned about the humanity of the people. They are not concerned whether people are getting some food or not. So people had literally starving. They died because of they didn't get the food. They died because they didn't get the medicine properly. They died because of these Britishers have extorted the revenue, even when they were not in the position to pay a single penny. They didn't have anything. It was a horrible famine. And after seeing that, there are a lot of people who were really got annoyed on the Britishers. Therein, there are a lot of tribal areas were there. And in place today, today the place is called Bhagalpur. It's part of Bihar now. Some Santhal tribe was there. Pahadia and Santhal tribe was there. Therein, a tribal sort of a tribal young person called Tilka Manji was a tribal young person who was very annoyed with the Britishers, and he thought that no, we should teach a lesson to them. They are most inhuman people. They are the most cruel people. So what he did in 1784, because after this famine, the situation of Bengal was worse. Bengal, when Britishers conquered Bengal, Bengal was supposed to be the most wealthy province of the entire country, because the Ganges was having delta at Bengal, and Bengal has rich agriculture. Bengal has rich business, because Bengal used to produce a lot of ships. Bengal used to produce a very good textile. This textile used to go to the worldwide, and they used to get a lot of money with that. So Bengal was a center of the business. Bengal was center of the trade. Bengal was center of the agriculture and all, everything. Bengal was really wealthy state. And within 10 years after their control, rather, of the Britishers' control after the Buxar war or Buxar battle, the Bengal was in a devastating state. It was in a horrible state. So in 1784, this Tilka Manji, who was a tribal, tribal young person, he used a small, we call it a weapon, or in Indian language we call it gulail. Gulail is a weapon which is similar to a slingshot kind of thing. It's similar to that. With that, this Tilka Manji has killed Augustus Cleveland. Augustus Cleveland. Augustus Cleveland was the commissioner of this area. It was a British commissioner. So with this, similar to that slingshot weapon, he killed that British commissioner. So naturally, this people were after him. But he was somehow, prior to that, he tried to see that the British control in that Bhagalpur area would not be established. So couple of years, he made that area free from the Britishers. And he tried to see that the local people, local tribal people, should follow their own way of lifestyle and all, because their lifestyle, their way of earning, their everything was very rich. They have a rich system, which Britishers wanted to kill the systems. So a couple of years he could able to do that. But when he killed that British commissioner, naturally British forces were after him, and he was something like in a Roman Spartacus was there. He's something like it. Some of them they basically compare him with a person like Spartacus. So uh, from 1778 to 1784, when he killed that British commissioner, the entire this Ranagad camp and all that entire area was freed by him. So it was his sort of kind of a rule. 78 to 84, 6 years he could, not couple of 6 years he could have that freedom in that area, was really great. But then Britishers were after him, and he somehow they caught him, and he was tied to the tail of a horse and dragged all the way to the collector's residence in Bhagalpur, today's Bhagalpur. But still he was alive, and he had a lot of against the feelings against the Britishers. He was annoyed with Britishers, and somehow after that he died. But the greatness is he motivated the tribal people. He motivated the tribal youths against the Britishers. He could very successfully made that area, Bhagalpur area, freed from the Britishers for around 6 years. And that is the greatness of Tilka Manjhi. So even a very small sort of relatively who is not really known, who was not a king, who was not a queen, who was not a king. He is not from a very high profile kind of a family and all. He was a very simple tribal youth. He could challenge the Britishers. He could defeat the Britishers. He could kill the British commissioner, single person. And that was really great. So like that, there are the incidences we could see wherein Britishers were defeated. It's not that Britishers ruled very easily across the country. No, it is not like that. They had the resistance felt at every nook and corner of this country. Everywhere. It was a resistance to them. And that is the, I should say, the beauty of Indian mind, that not to accept the slavery, but to fight against it. And that is really important.
So, Prashantji, this is again a very inspiring story, because in the East also people think that there was no freedom struggle was done. And most of the books only cover that how British easily conquered India. But what you just mentioned is not, there was a fight at every step. Most of the times you hear that Rajasthani, obviously they fought a lot, but this part is not known, like on the East and on the South also. And so one thing comes in the mind now, we know all this history, that we have defended our land from invaders from outside.
Yes.
But what if the reverse mindset was there, that we defend ourselves across the ocean also, so that this situation doesn't arise? Because when you defend, you lose a lot. And when you are offensive defense, where you take the defense outside, I mean, these kind of lessons can be learned from this kind of history. Isn't that true?
I fully agree with you. Prior to, before, coming to your point, let me quote another example of this eastern part of India. And that is relatively later, in the sense that in the year 1875 to 1900, the person is Birsa Munda. Birsa Munda was a tribal leader, a very simple, ordinary tribal person, tribal youth, had got life of only 25 years. But in 25 years, he made such a great revolution in the entire area that Britishers also cannot forget his name. That is Birsa Munda. The tribal people used to call it Dharti Aba, that is fatherly figure of the soil. That's what this tribal people used to call him. He was, and let's understand his kind of philosophy at that time. 1875, when he was born, that time Britishers had a very strong controls over the entire country. They started having their control in Bengal area from after winning the Plassey battle, that is 1757. Then they won the Buxar battle as well. So naturally they had the started collecting revenues and all. So Bengal was there. This thing. In 1818, they defeated Marathas. Marathas is a very a large kind of power across the most part of the country was under the Maratha commanders. So Britishers defeated Maratha in 1818. After that, except Punjab, the entire country, entire India, and India was the then India, which was a very huge India. So that India was under the control of Britishers, except Punjab, because Punjab, Maharaja Ranjit Singh, King Ranjit Singh was ruling that area. And after 1850, when Britishers even defeated this Sikh people and got control over that Lahore and today Afghanistan and that Pakistan and entire area, Balochistan and all. So naturally, in 1875, when this Birsa Munda was born, Britishers were in a very, very strong position. 1857 war was already over, and after that, Britishers did lot of cruelty and lot of barbaric things, and so that no one should come forward and say anything against the Britishers. That was basically the mindset was set. And this Birsa Munda was from a Munda, a community, which is basically a tribal community. Today, around 2.3 million people belong to Munda community in India. He was born in a district called Lohardaga. It's in today in Jharkhand state. That time it was in Bengal province. So he started, he became, his father was a very ordinary person, but his father knew the importance of education. So his father decided that his son should have proper education. Now they were not giving, the British or the Christians were not, because all Christian schools were there. The British education system was destroyed by this, Indian education system. The proper ancient Indian education system, which was a rich system, was destroyed by these Britishers. So naturally, we didn't have our own education system. It was only the British schools were there. So therein, if you want to have the education, all the tribal people are supposed to get converted into Christianity. His father converted him into Christianity. This Birsa Munda became Christian. His name was Birsa David. His name became Birsa David. And he studied in a German missionary school. But then he was an original thinker. He was thinking that what is happening, what these people are doing. This is our own soil, this is our own country, this is our own culture. Why these people are pressurizing these kind of things on us, which we are not supposed to do that. So he was going through all those things. After having some education in 1890, when he was only 15 years old, he was converted back into Hinduism. He came back to Hinduism. He started using his name as a Birsa Munda again. And from there onwards, he started opposing the Christian missionaries and the Britishers, both together. Because of his movements, because of this, and Britishers were very strong, they arrested him in 1895. and 2 years he was in prison, 1895 to 1897. But in 1897 he got freed. He came from the prison, and then he started a major movement, which today even Britishers, the old Britishers, if you go through the history, they can't even forget about that. That movement called Ul Gulan. Ul Gulan was a movement of the tribal people, Janjati we call it, this tribal people, against the British regime. And 3 years from 1897 to 1900, 3 years almost, British regime, British control, British power was not there in the entire region. This was when the Britishers were very strong across the country. But these tribal people were very strong. And he organized all these tribal people. And the organization is very strong. And we are aware that how strong the Britishers were there, but still their resistance was great. So Britishers had no control in and around the area called Ranchi. Ranchi today is the capital of Jharkhand state of India. But then somehow when he was on a hill and discussing with his people and all, there were some people, his own, one or two his own people got money from Britishers, and they told the Britishers, okay, he's there and all. And somehow on 3rd February 1990, he got arrested. He was in a jail, but he got, Britishers gave him poison and all. And 9th June 1990, he died. But most important part is 3 years he had his own tribal sort of regime in the entire area. They used to call it Abua Dishum, Abua Raj. That is, our country, our rule. That was their motto. That was their slogan. Abua Dishum, Abua Raj. Our country, our rule. Why should these Britishers rule us? It is our country. We should rule that. And they used to say, another slogan is, Abua Raj ete jana, Maharani Raj tundu jana. This means, let the kingdom of Queen is Queen Elizabeth, let the kingdom of the Queen be ended and our kingdom be established. That was their motto. So, as we were discussing, that a perception was created among not only Indians but even the worldwide, that there was not much of the resistance against the Britishers. Britishers' rule was very nice, and they were very sophisticated. They taught the etiquettes and manners to the Indian natives and all that kind of somehow narrative was they tried to establish, and that is absolutely wrong. We have a lot of proofs. We earlier also discussed on this show that it is absolutely wrong. Their regime was horrible. Their regime was painful. It was they were very cruel people, and at the same time, Indians gave the strong resistance to them, not only in one geographical part, but the entire country, if we consider, whether it's the east or west. Like this east we are saying, there's a west in when Maratha and this Britishers, because ultimately they got the major portion of the country after winning the Marathas. But that was in 1880, 1818. Prior to that, they also had 3 wars with the Marathas. And the 3rd war, somehow Maratha people, they couldn't get united. All their commanders couldn't get united, and Britishers somehow defeated them. But the 2nd war with Maratha was a great war. This war is called the War of, it was in 1778-79, almost a similar time. These are the contemporary kind of things which I'm saying. So Britishers wanted to somehow, they thought that, okay, let's defeat this Maratha kingdom, whose capital was Pune. Today, Pune is a major town in Maharashtra, whose capital is Mumbai. But that time, the entire Maratha sort of kingdom was Pune. So from Mumbai, Bombay, they used to call it Bombay those days. So from Bombay, 4,000 uh, soldiers started, out of which only 400 soldiers were European or Britishers. The rest all were the Indians. They were fighting against the Indians. So they came on 4th January, that is 1779, because they started in December 1778. In 1779, 4th January, they tried to attack in a place called Khandala. It's a hill station sort of. Therein, they had a very brave soldier or brave kind of a commander. His name was James Stewart. James Stewart was very brave, very powerful, and all the British soldiers used to tell that, okay, we have the James Stewart. James Stewart can do anything and all. This James Stewart got killed on 4th January 1779. On 13th January 1779, this 13th and 14th January is a very kind of a very important period for every Maratha soldier, because in 1761, Maratha force had lost the battle of Panipat. The third Panipat battle was lost by Marathas, and a lot of Marathas got killed there. A lot of Hindu people got killed there, and therefore this 13th, 14th January was very important for them. So on 13th January 1779, this British force reached to a place called Vadgaon. Vadgaon is not very far from Pune. I mean, it's far from Pune, but not very far. In Vadgaon, they could get there, and there was a major attack on the Britishers. Major attack. By 14th January, Britishers army was killed brutally by this Marathas, because they wanted to teach them the proper lesson, the way the Britishers were doing all the illegal activities in the Maratha Raj, in the Hindu Raj, in the entire country. There are no ethics, there are no system. Britishers wanted to do everything which was possible under the sun. So Marathas wanted to teach them the lesson. And on 14th January 1779, in the morning hours, these Britishers were really defeated by the Marathas. Nana Fadnavis, Mahadaji, Shinde, Holkar, all were there. And it was a very decisive defeat of the Britishers. And because of this defeat, there was a conflict in the Bengal province, Bengal presidency, Madras presidency, and the Bombay presidency. Because what was happening, Bengal presidency has the control over the entire Bengal. Even that time, the Madras presidency has a control over, or started ruling over, major portion of the south. But this Bombay presidency couldn't do it, because it was the Hindu kingdom, Maratha kingdom was there, and somehow that was a major resistance to them. They are not able to even rule a small portion of it. And that's why both the presidencies were after them, that you are not doing anything, you are not showing your performance. And because of this frustration, they attacked the Marathas, and Marathas had defeated them decisively. And that's why then their struggle started between the Calcutta and Bombay. And they had a lot of action. They said that I don't accept your condition. He said no. I mean, the Calcutta governor said I don't accept your condition. Also, there was fight in between, because of this Marathas have decisively defeated the English forces on 14th of January 1779. And that's the reason this Maratha empire could go longer up to 1818, because of this battle. If this battle Maratha would have lost, probably instead of 1818, this British Raj might have started even earlier to that. So with this, I mean, this was the West. I'm saying, so East, West, South, and North. A lot of things we are aware. So in nutshell, my point here is that Britishers were, or whether Britishers, were Dutch, were Portuguese, were French, they all had a major resistance from the Indians. And Indians have many times, many places decisively defeated them and freed them and had their own kind of rule and all. For maybe for some time, the victory might be for some time, but they had the victory. That's what I want to say. Yes.
And even in 1947, we had the final victory of
Yes.
independence. But
Yes.
unfortunately, we got divided due to
Yes.
politicians, actually, not because of Indians. So,
Yes.
so do you think, with the absence of democracy during that time or referendum, so most of the political leaders divided India based on their personal egos rather than the viewpoint of the Indians? Because every Indian was hurt by the decision of Mahatma Gandhi agreeing with the Western Mountbatten and all these people who were the oppressors. And but now we see that the heart of the Indians goes with Subhash Chandra Bose because of he fought, he represented them. So, do you think that those people they decided whimsically?
Yeah. 100%. I agree with you. Because last show, if you recall, we were discussed that how Britishers have really have run away from the India because of there were three major, they call it mutinies. We
Mutiny,
call it some
freedom struggle.
movements. Freedom struggle was there. One was initially was the Air Force, second was the Naval, and third was in Jabalpur, the Army Signal Corps. There was a major revolt, mutiny, whatever you may call it. And in the commonality of all the three movements was they all were carrying the Subhash Chandra Bose kind of picture with them. And they were shouting the slogan like Jai Hind and all. So, yes, it was because of the basic influence of the Subhash Chandra Bose. And Subhash Chandra Bose literally showed a kind of a braveness in the Indian mind. They showed, I mean, Subhash Chandra Bose showed that yes, if we determine, we can do something, we can do anything. And that got appealed by most of the Indians. And that's the reason, one of the reasons that even Britishers were quite worried that if they can't control their army, their forces, they can't rule the country. And during this period, I agree with you that the leaders, those who were really leading the country that time, unfortunately, they didn't take the proper decisions.
And they did not follow the viewpoint of the Indians, like such a
Yes,
brave civilization. And so it also means that they were supplanted, they were implanted. Because how could they decide the destiny of so many Indians who fought against these colonial powers
yes,
and accept a independence as a
partition.
charity? They got
Yes,
they accepted independence charity not as a right. And
yes,
but our, based on what we discussed today, our real leaders, the local leaders, they never accepted that. So
yes,
they were totally out of line with the majority of the Indians. I mean, the division of India was out of line with the majority of Indians, right? So,
yes,
mm.
yes, you're right. That's correct.
So thank you, Prashantji, for this wonderful session, very educational. What we'll do is we'll conclude in this next part, the remaining, because a lot of information is still left. And I think your two books
Yes,
have come out, Vijay Parva and one is Vinash Parva also.
Vinash Parva, that's correct. Yes, that's correct.
So Vijay, and both which publishers they are from?
Vijay Parva is yet to come, but Vinash Parva is now published. I mean, it is from the Prabhat publication, Prabhat
Okay.
Prakashan, that is from Delhi.
Yeah, I know
So
him.
that Vinash Parva book is, yes. So that Prabhat has already published that,
Very
and very
famous
soon it will be,
publishers.
yeah, very soon it will be on the Kindle and all.
Okay.
So
So
yes,
Prabhat Publications, you can search for Prashant Pole
yes.
and get this book. It's in Hindi, I think.
It's in Hindi.
It's in Hindi.
Very soon it will be available in English and Gujarati and Marathi.
Okay.
These three languages.
So get that book to get more details, because on video we can only cover few incidents, but the details will be there in the book as well. So thank you so much for joining, and do comment on the video. It's a long video, but I can assure you, you will not be able to skip it. Namaste and thank you.
धन्यवाद. नमस्कार.